Hi everybody, and a warm welcome back to Maple Leaf Customs. I'm Andrew, and on the bench today is a 1:64 scale Hot Wheels Big Air Bel Air. It's the last day of the month, so this is my entry into the Four Horsemen Invitational. The theme is post-apocalyptic. The Four Horsemen are Paul from Diecast Graveyard, Xavier from Diecast Show Customs, myself representing Maple Leaf Customs, and this month's guest horseman, Paul Udelis from Fat Guy Productions. There's an important change for next month's October build. Since the Three Blind Mice have disbanded, the Four Horsemen are going to be hosting the annual Paint It Pink Invitational, and now you can choose any casting you want for breast cancer awareness, and the upload date is last day of the month, October 31st. It doesn't have to be the 85 Camaro that we had been promoting because this is a late breaking change. But you can use that car if you've already gone out and got one, no problem. I hope you'll be involved, and if you are, like in this build or any of the Four Horsemen Invitationals, send your glamour shots in to fourhorsemendiecast@gmail.com, and we'll include your work and your channel name in the recap video. As you can see, I'm not going to strip the Bel Air down and repaint it. I'm just scuffing it up with some rough sandpaper to give it a well-worn look. But I am going to do some pretty serious body mods to this one, so I break out the jeweler's saw to chop the top in half, changing it from a two-seater to a front bench only. I cut the trunk out also. I wonder when I'm all finished if you'll even recognize this as a Chevy Bel Air. Today's community shout-out goes to all of my Diecast community friends who are participating in the hashtag DDOG, the Diecast Day of Giving, which is October 15th. This is when we give some of our way too many Diecast cars away to kids for the Christmas season. You take them to your local fire department or Goodwill store or the hospital or your church. There are so many venues that will happily receive your donations. Be a blessing and be blessed. You saw me use a little bit of super glue, more or less like a tack weld, to put the two pieces of the now chopped top together, but I've got to finish the job properly, so I mix up a little bit of JB weld and apply that to the top and bottom. I'm really not looking for a perfect seam here because it's post-apocalyptic and these are all kind of backyard builds, and I want it to look that way. The mods continue with some extensive trimming of the red interior, so I don't need the back half anymore, and this gray piece, which is not really the frame, but holds the suspension and the pull bar and a roll bar and a spare gas tank. Personal note to Mr. Brendon Vetuskey, who designed this, got too much stuff on it. So I'm trimming that all down, one piece at a time. I keep doing a dry fit after each piece I clip off to see how it looks. Well, I am really jettisoning a lot of parts here. Off comes the rear suspension. There goes the roll bar with the lights on it. I don't like these plastic exhaust stacks that come out from under the hood. I think I can do better than that. Off they go. Side exhaust is no more. Let's see how it looks. Oh, I got that trimmed down to fighting weight now. More to come off later. Okay, it's time to do some rough filing on the JB weld, just on the top of the roof. I don't worry about the inside. And again, I want it to look like a bad weld job because of the genre that we're working with today, so that's going to be fine. And now just a cosmetic effect. I'm going to tape off the hood with some Tamiya masking tape. I'll spray that in a rust color just to make it look like a replacement hood, although I'm not cutting it out and putting it back in. A little bit of painter's tape to mask off everything else. Out it comes from the spray booth. About 30 minutes later, I can peel off the masking tape, and there we've got a replacement primered hood. Like so. I want this chop top weld job to look like it was done with a paint roller in the backyard. So I'm being careful, but not too careful, if you know what I mean. I fired up the 3D printer to make a couple of special add-ons for this project, most importantly the tires. On the right are the original Hot Wheels, and I 3D printed some fat ones. These are not monster truck tires. They're exactly the same diameter. It's already lifted up. They're just real fatties, kind of like mudders. With some styrene plate, I'm now building in a rear truck bed. And with the Dremel drum sanding attachment, I clear out that wheel well, but I'm not expanding it. It's already lifted up and wide open. I learned this tip from Chuck Ellis 2 years ago. Chuck explained, and he's an expert in weathering, that in 1:64 scale there's no true black and there's no true white. And so this is just a really dark gray that I'm going with. Good tip, Chuck. I learn a lot from your channel. I made a truck bed out of an old tomato can that I've been cutting up for about 1.5 years now. Still got some left. And I can start the reassembly, although there's a long way to go. Front screw goes in, and remember I cut out the back post, so I have to actually super glue this together, but there are a lot of connection points and it's rock solid. Here's a 3D printed front ram, nothing too serious, and some quad exhaust for each side. So I'm going with gunmetal gray to darken these up. All styrene pieces have to be primered first, and they were. And let's see how the exhaust looks on both sides. Pretty good. Here's my front ram with a tow hook on it. It's understated, not over the top. Remember those cheap-looking plastic exhaust stacks that I clipped away? I left the openings there, but I'm making my own out of some brass tubing, cut to size, and I weld two together, so now I got double stacks in the front, quad exhaust coming out the side. Again, going for the backyard, case of beer on the weekend. Look. And I like to give credit where credit is due, so here's another tip I picked up just from watching friends do their builds and BP Custom Creations. This is one of his signature moves. Little styrene cut unevenly. It's not meant to look perfect. Has some armored bars on the front. Do you remember the original didn't even have glass? Alright, that's been hammered out and bent into shape pretty roughly. And I've seen Ben do this. He's making some tiny little rivets out of the smallest styrene rod that we can get, and I put that on with some Tamiya super thin styrene glue. It's wicked stuff. Actually melts these together. When I'm all done, looks like this. I hand brushed some white primer on it, and then get to painting, also in gunmetal gray. The guys who run this are actually, as the story goes, direct descendants of the Clampetts from the Beverly Hillbillies, and so I put a nice big couch in the back seat there, but they're not taking life too easy, because when they're out on a beer run, they got a little bit of firepower in the back. Strictly defensive, you understand, because the Bel Air doubles as a post-apocalyptic soccer mom vehicle. I put the pieces on some sticky tape for more primer. Let's put a green couch cover on this one. This is a very flexible thick wire that I get from the hobby store, and it works wonderfully well as a roll bar, or you could make a full roll cage out of it. I'm going to chrome that up and then weather it down. In my imagination, this is a post-apocalyptic inner city Chevy, and so it has been tagged by the local gangbangers. So I graffiti it up on both sides like this. And that was easy to do, printing out a couple of decals that go on the top. And I'll place one more on the hood. And now for some weathering. Inner city or not, everything in the wastelands is dusty. So the tires, the body, Granny's couch, everything gets hit appropriately. So I'm going to put a flag in the back because there's some kind of identification purposes to know if it's friend or foe coming at you. And you want to fly the right colors when you're out there. I like to use Typhus Corrosion by Citadel very sparingly because this is actually a textured weathering liquid. It gives a 3D relief look on it for that all-important crud effect on the undercarriage. And so as never to be accused of forgetting the most minute detail, this is the last touch on the car. The stuffing is coming out of the couch. It's been well ridden for many kilometers. Let's have a closer look. So many things I want to point out to you. I like the chop top with the armored bars across the front. The big 3D printed fat tires set it apart from the other Chevy Bel Airs in a loud way. Ram on the front. Some graffiti tags all around. Dual exhaust stacks coming out from under the hood, quad exhaust on the sides. You can hear this coming from miles away. The couch, the firepower. Got it all weathered up the way I wanted to, top and bottom. Have a good look around at that. I'm particularly happy with the way this one turned out. It's not your classic full attack vehicle that we often do, and those are fun. I say these are just the good old boys, never meaning no harm. You know what I mean. That's not the exact car I started with. Mine was white, but it's the same Big Air Bel Air model, just like you get off the pegs. And here's what you get in the wastelands. Can you still recognize a 56 Chevy under all that? Oh, there's a story to be told with this old one. I'm really pleased with how it came out. I had a whole bunch of fun with it, and I encourage you to look up and watch for all of the other builds for September's Four Horsemen Chevy Big Air Bel Air post-apocalyptic build, and make sure you leave a comment for them. I'm not taking this to the Goodwill store with the rest of my D-Dog customs. Too many parts that can be broken off and swallowed, so I gotta find a home for this one. I'm sure there's someone out there who collects post-apocalyptic Chevys. If that's you, hit me up and we'll work something out. Also, speedy recovery to Paul at Diecast Graveyard. I want to thank you for visiting my channel today. Drive carefully. It's coffee time.